Hi, everyone. This is Stephanie from Vegan Mainstream, and I'm excited to have our next segment, or I guess I should say our current segment here of Webinar Wednesday. What we do is each month we try to host a free webinar about really tips, ideas, tools, things that can help you grow your business, expand your business. And then also, in some cases, maybe you've been in business for a while, there's an opportunity to kind of revamp some of the things you've done and maybe take them to the next level, put in some new infrastructure tools as your business has grown over the years, as your business has reached new customers, as you rolled out new products. Sometimes it makes sense to kind of relook at the way you've managed your business, you've ran your business, and the way that, and some of the tools that you use to make it a better customer experience. That there's an opportunity for improvement. And what we hope to do with these webinars is to just give you some ideas, give you some suggestions, give you some things that are truly actionable that you can put in place pretty much today, tomorrow, next week, depending on your timeline, so that you can drive sales, so you can drive growth. And tonight's no different than any other night, but tonight what we're really going to focus on is on data, on using that data to drive the action, to drive the growth, to identify opportunity in your business. And the reason I talk about the data and kind of that focus on driving data is it's very easy in our business at times to feel like we can gut check things. We can kind of say, I got a good feeling about this, or this should really be a great opportunity. And I don't want you to doubt or not leverage your gut. I want you to definitely use that intuition because it's a very valuable thing. And for many of you that have been in business for a while, it's probably one of those great tools or assets that have allowed you to get to where you are today. However, what I do want to make sure you do is balance that. I want you to not just always kind of go on a feeling or tap into that emotional core. What I want you to do is leverage some of the data to help you make either better decisions, more accurate decisions, or to maybe discover things that you should be thinking about considering that maybe you wouldn't be if you had just been kind of thinking based on past experience off your gut. And that's really the key tonight. Now, with all of our webinars, we try to make these interactive and make them fun. But I also want to keep these at a good time pace. I've been going over lately, so I've been challenging myself now to keep these maybe more to 30 minutes so you guys can cut in here, grab some information, and then jump off because I know these are at night and these are at times where you guys are doing family things or other things as well. So one quick check, this will be recorded, so you'll be able to watch it afterwards. We also love questions. So if you're watching this on the Vegan Mainstream page, please post your questions there. I will try to address them during the talk. If I miss anything during the talk, just post your question there and I will come back to the page and answer it. Okay? So with that, let's start talking about some of the key data that you want to be monitoring. Now, it's probably not a surprise that I start off with my number one item is net income. And I know many of you are probably saying, like, of course, Stephanie, I should be monitoring it. But the reason I put this in here and also I put a hyper focus on this is because I think it's one of those things that we know we should be doing, but it's not always the thing that people actually do. It's not something that they have a good process around measuring. And what I mean by that is many small businesses, what they tend to do is manage to their bank account. And when you manage to your bank account, that's really not a good assessment of how much money you're making. It's not a great assessment of net income because a bank account is an ebb and flow depending on people cash checks, depending on when money comes in. It's really just a snapshot in time. It doesn't necessarily say the health of your business. It really just tells you if you have cash available to spend. And in some cases available until a check comes against it. So what I want you to do or think differently is when you start thinking about using data to drive action and to drive ultimately growth in your business, is start to break down metrics like net income or like income or sales metrics into things that you can monitor on a daily and weekly basis. And the reason I say do this on a daily and weekly basis is because many of us as business owners, we have an idea of how much we want our business to make. or we have an idea if you're a solopreneur or maybe it's only 2 or 3 people in your company, as far as, or if you're just starting out, the salary that you want to make. And what many people do is they kind of look at things at the end of the year, or they look at things at tax time to get a basic understanding of where their business is. And while there are things that you do want to monitor on an annual basis, what I want to challenge you to do tonight is start to break that down into weekly, daily, or monthly numbers instead of annual. And the reason being is when you start to monitor it at these smaller increments, you're able to make change in your business. Because if you wait months and months and months, and 8 months in, you start looking at your numbers and doing an analysis, you only have, 4 months or so left in the year to make a change. However, if you start to look at your business, especially if maybe you're a consulting business, and you start to look at things to say, for my business to be healthy, on average, I need to have 10 consulting clients in a month. Or on average, I need to have 10 consulting clients on a week. That is a manageable number. It's a number that's easy for you to get to, as opposed to saying, well, I want my business to make $500,000 or I want my business to make $1,000,000. That's great. But how do you ensure you're on track? How do you know if you need to change your marketing approach? How do you know if maybe your budget or maybe your target is not realistic? Because what you find is you can really only handle 3 clients a week instead of 5 clients a week. Or what you may find is because you've changed your package offering, 3 clients a week or 5 clients a week will bring you more revenue than 10 clients a week if you do bigger packages or different product offering or have an upsell product. So that's where I want you to look at your kind of metrics of your data differently, is if you start to have a good understanding of how many customers you need, either on a weekly, daily, or monthly basis, and depends on your type of business. Service-based businesses, I like to measure you much more on a weekly and monthly basis. And smaller businesses, meaning entrepreneur, solopreneur, those types of businesses. If you are more of a retail outlet, I tend to want to see transactions on a daily basis. And the reason being is because you want your website to constantly have a flow. Now, if you're first starting out, there's nothing wrong with saying, I just need to have 5 sales a day. I know that sounds crazy, and I know it sounds like, oh, shouldn't I have the biggest number in the world? And yes, you should. You want to, obviously, sky's the limit. But at the same time, we want something realistic. And if you don't have any sales, what I'd rather you have is 3, 5 sales coming in every single day so we can build upon that. Then you have 6 days with no sales, and then you have 10 sales, and then you have 2 days with no sales, and you have 1 sale, then you have 3 sales. All that lumpiness in a retail business, it's so important that you really kind of smooth that out. Because to have the kind of income and revenue that you want in your business, you want it to be consistent. You want your business to be kind of driven by consistent sales. And once you get that consistency right, even if it's 3 sales a day, even if it's 5 sales a day, it's much easier to take a business that's getting consistent sales and double, make it 20% increase, 30% increase, 50% increase than it is when you have a lumpy business. Now, for some of you, you're lumpy because maybe you do vegan ice cream as an example. So you tend to be stronger in the summertime than you would in the wintertime. Obviously, there's some exceptions to the rule based on your business type. But as a general rule, we want to have some level of consistency about your business. And what I want to challenge you tonight is to decide and figure out what that is. And often it means it's going to be a metric at either daily, weekly, or monthly. Okay. And the metrics can be, like I said, sales per day or sales per day, because you'll have an average amount of sale. You'll know that on average, my customers spend $30, $50, $100. So obviously we can multiply that out into the income targets that you're trying to get. But also, I want you to think about it in not just dollar amounts, but number of customers, number of sales, because I want you to think of it differently. I don't want you to just kind of look at that big bucket, kind of like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. What I want you to do is start to understand your metrics and how sales each day, how that rolls into your ultimate income number. How does number of customers you have affect your ultimate income number? Because I think what we miss sometimes in our business is when you look at
that consolidated figure, you may miss key information, meaning if you have a spike, meaning you have a couple customers that spend a little bit more than other customers, you may not notice if your average sale per order, like amount of sale per order, is starting to decline. You want to have visibility to that. If you're noticing that last month you had 50 customers and this month you had 40 customers, or last month you had 50 customers and this month you had 100 customers, but the 100 customers are yielding the same income as the 50 customers, those are things we want to see, because what that means is it's taking more customers to create the income that you need. And we want to know why. We want to know, is that a sign of a problem, of a challenge? Or does it mean something else? Does it mean that people aren't aware of your products or services? Does it mean people are buying the lower priced items that they hadn't bought before? Does it mean people are more trying you out? And what we're finding is over time, those people who maybe are purchasing a lower ticket item down the line purchase a more expensive one. So that's why I want you to have that visibility. So I wanted to spend a little bit extra time on this one just because it's super, super important that you're using those numbers. And then that's how it can help you drive action. That's how you can say, I need to adjust my marketing efforts. That's how I find out if, hey, I know I've been running Facebook ads and it's a consistent point. I've been able to get 5 leads a day. And of those 5 leads at the end of the week, I'm able to get at least 2 customers. Then what we can do is we can say, okay, with the Facebook ads that you're running right now, what can we do to increase that number? Because we know we have the mix right. We know the numbers are good, even at a small level. But now what do I do? Do I reach new audiences? Do I increase my dollar spend? So do I just double the amount of money I'm spending, because therefore can I increase the amount of money I'm earning? And that's how your data now is starting to help you grow your business. That's how moving those levers are allowing you to actually drive some sales. Okay. So we've talked about income, we've talked about sales. Oh, and one other small thing on that page is make sure, especially if you're a small business, you're really small, meaning solopreneur, 2, 3, 4 people, make sure you understand as the business owner how much money you actually need or want to make. Because a lot of times I hear people say, I want to make $1 million, I want to make $5 million, I want to make all these big numbers. And that's great and that makes sense. But if you want to start with a realistic target, let's start with something that's within reach. And let's start with something to say, yes, you may want to make $1 million in 3 years. But the question is, what can you make in the first 6 months? How much can you make in the first year? And then once you know that number, especially if you're a solopreneur, then you can back into those daily or weekly numbers. And we know if you're going to hit that target 3 months in. We're not going to wait to the end of the year. We're going to know early on. And that's how you have a better sense of, is your business going to support you at the level that you hoped it could support you? Or does your business need more time to create that opportunity for you? Okay. Next metric I want to talk about is lead source. Now, for some of you, maybe the term lead is like, what do you mean, Stephanie? And what I mean by that is these are people that are coming through what we kind of would call a pipeline. These are people that are coming to your site and showing a high level of interest in your product. And what we want to do is, if we're looking for leads, if we're looking for people, and leads are normally people that we think have a probability of potentially turning into customers. What I want you to do is make sure in your business you have some mechanism in place to track where your leads are coming from. Because what happens often is you want traffic, 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 and we do all this work trying to build as much traffic as possible. And what you find is you may get the traffic, you may start to get the sales. But if you don't know where that traffic came from, we don't know which items to repeat versus items not to repeat. Or which items do we want to do more of because they're yielding the results that we want. So the number one thing you want to do if you're doing campaigns, promotions, advertising, even if you're putting banner ads on blogs, is make sure you're using a trackable link. It is so super important. Even if you have to use a bit.ly link. I like to use the Google trackable links only because I use Google Analytics. And if you use a Google trackable or custom link, that's what they call them. And you can just Google it and it'll walk you through a page that'll show you how to set up those links. It'll allow in Google Analytics to pull in those campaigns. So, you know, those times where people say, oh, if you could do A, B, and C for me, I'll put your logo on our site as a sponsor, or put your logo on our site as a sponsor or as a supporter. Every time you put one of those logos on someone else's site, so your logo on their site, use a trackable link. Don't just give them your homepage, give them a trackable link to your homepage.
And the reason being is down the line, you want to know how many people are actually clicking on that link, how much of that traffic is coming through. And it may take time. Maybe month 1, month 2, not that much. And then all of a sudden, the blog, the website, the partner blows up and that traffic's coming through. And you want to be able to know where it's coming from and is there a way for you to do more? Is there a partner that maybe you should be spending more time with? Is there marketing that you should be spending more on? Is there activities that you should be doing more on or less? Same thing happens with things with social media. That's why I gave you the screenshot. Is you may start to look, well, where is my traffic coming from? And for some of you, you're spending maybe a ton of time in tools like Facebook, or maybe you're spending a ton of time in Twitter, but you might get surprised when you start to look at your report. And this is a report from Google Analytics, just to give you an idea, is that you may bump into something like this where you'll come in here and go, well, wait a minute, I'm getting more traffic from Pinterest than I am from some of my Facebook campaigns. Now, Facebook's on here twice, so if you add them up, it is a little bit higher. But my point here is when you start to look at this type of data, this may tell you, hey, maybe I should be spending a little bit more time on Pinterest because I am getting leads from it. People are converting and coming to my site. Because what you may find in many of the social media tools is if you're not actively working to convert people, meaning you don't have tools and documents, that's why people do the free ebook downloads or free chapter of your book, or people can sign up for a free consult, or, whatever thing that you're doing. If you don't have a trackable link on there, you're not tracking that action, what you may find is people love you on Facebook, love communicating with you in your Facebook page, but they don't make it over to your site. And if they don't make it over to your site, the challenge is if you're considering the work you're doing on Facebook as a tool to drive sales, then you may not be getting the results you want. Now, if you're using Facebook to build rapport, build reputation, maybe you have a group you manage, that's different. But if you're really trying to leverage your Facebook page for promotions, for activities, for lead generation type of activity, and if I don't see that traffic in this type of report, what it tells me is either I'm not getting the result I want, or it may tell you that you should be focusing somewhere else because there may be an opportunity there. Okay? So, lead source, big one, very important, especially if you use landing pages. And I hope many of you are. The other thing you want to pay attention as far as metric is lead. Oh, it says conversations. It should say conversions. Let's fix that on the fly here. And the reason why it's so important that you're looking at conversions is, like the previous page, I talked about lead sources, leads coming in. You need that floodgate open. You need those people showing up because those people are potential buyers. But what you also have to make sure is you have to track of those leads that are pouring in, are they actually converting? Because if they're not converting, what it will tell you is the people that you're attracting may not be your customers. So therefore, you may have a ton of traffic and you might be able to check the box that, yes, I'm finally getting people on my site. People are checking out my products. People are looking at my services. People are interacting, but they're not converting. Now we know we have a sales issue because there's a difference between a traffic issue and a sales issue. And if you don't track conversions, sometimes you may pick the wrong project or fix in your business because you think it's upstream or downstream. So what I want you to do is make sure you have a way of tracking lead conversion. Now, what I showed you here is a very simple example. This is if you're doing any type of advertising, please, please, please make sure you know what kind of conversions are being yielded from that advertising. So if you're doing Facebook ads, and Facebook's really good, and this Twitter does the same thing, where you can actually track the results of that campaign. And when I say track, not just the traffic, you can actually get a report where it'll tell you how many people click through. And if you set it up correctly, and there's trackable code that you can actually put on your website, what you can do is you can actually say, for all the leads that I got, it'll show you how much it cost, to actually acquire that lead. And then it'll also tell you, well, how much income did you generate from that campaign? And that's the key, because we want to know, if you put out $100 for Facebook ads, did you generate 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 in sales? Because now what we're able to prove is that the ads are working. Because sometimes what we do when we use the wrong data or the gut check with things like advertising, we go, I'm seeing more people on our site, or I'm seeing more people like me on our Facebook page. And that stuff's good. But we have to keep going. You have to start looking at things that are closer to sales to actually drive that action. So we definitely want to make sure that we know what's converting. This will also help you maybe spend less, because if you're monitoring this, and if you're doing Facebook ads, you should be looking at your ad results almost every day. Is you can see, is this ad performing for me? Because if it's not performing, then you want to switch to a different ad, a different photo, a different headline. We just got to keep mixing it up until we find the right thing. And I know it can be frustrating, because it's like, I don't have all this time, Stephanie, to do all this work. And I'm not advocating that you do every single thing on this list, especially if you have a small team. What I want you to do is start putting at least 2 or 3, and I'll mention this at the end, 2 or 3 of these metrics in place and track them. Because what I want you to do is to use more and more data to make better decisions on where you spend your money when it comes to advertising, where you spend your money when it comes to marketing. And the same thing goes if you're going to put ads in newspapers, if you're going to put an ad in Veg News or Veg World or Vegan Lifestyle Magazine, send them a trackable link. Send them a link that's your homepage / whatever you want to put in there, / promotion, / deal, / offer, / special, / mom, or whatever you want to put it in there. But put that link in there so we can track that traffic. If you want to really get fancy, put a phone number in there that's different than your main phone number, still forwards, but you can actually get variable phone numbers, or what they call virtual phone numbers, so you can track campaigns. Because what we want to be able to do is say, okay, I did this ad, I got those people to my site, did those people convert? All right. Next one is campaign conversions. Now, this sounds really similar to the previous one about lead conversions. And where this is different, or how I see this different, is looking at campaigns. And specifically here, I'm talking about things like MailChimp. And I don't know if all of you are aware of this, but what's really nice about MailChimp is MailChimp has a really, really, really cool feature where you can track the sales related to an email campaign you set up. Now, to do that, you have to link it to your sales tool. And MailChimp has a couple of different tools that integrate with a couple of different platforms. The one I use and the one I most commonly have my clients use is WooCommerce. So if you have a WordPress site and you're using WooCommerce, you can link that over to MailChimp. When you mail a campaign out with links that link to your shopping cart on your site, you are able to see, they have a report called the e-commerce 360 report. And what it will do is it will show you for that campaign, it generated X amount of total sales. And what's great about that is starting to tell you, is your email marketing working? Is your email marketing yielding results? And the reason I say you want to track these types of things is because sometimes when you do a campaign, you may be doing social media campaign, you may be posting on social media sites, you may be doing a board on Pinterest, maybe you're doing some interviews, maybe you've written some articles, and then you've also done an email campaign. So when you look at your sales all together on your website, it's hard to know, well, what worked, what didn't work, what should you do more of, and how do you do smarter with your marketing, unless you have some of this data at your fingertips. So that's why you want to add a tool like this into your MailChimp, or leverage it into your MailChimp account, because now you'll know that I sent out XYZ campaign, and of the sales that I generated, 50% came from email, or 20% came from email. And what that'll tell you is, for your next campaign, it will show you how important email marketing is to you, how much maybe potential revenue you can do. And if you run out of time, you get short of time, because all of us as vegan entrepreneurs, it's just not like time, it's just limitless. you'll know, well, email did do about 60% or 50% of my sales for my last campaign. So for this one, if I have to prioritize, I'm going to make email my number one focus because of the amount of revenue it generated. And that's how now you're starting to use data to prioritize, starting to use data to decide where you should not only spend your time, but you're spending on your time on things that have a higher probability of yielding success. All right. Next one I want to talk about is website data. And for many of you, you may be using Google Analytics, just like I mentioned earlier, and that's a great start so you can understand the source and where those people are coming from. But ultimately, when I talk about website data, and this is really important for anyone who has a high transaction business, like an online retailer, or if you're a person that sells a lot of subscriptions, or maybe you do product launches, so you do like a 60-day, 3-week, or you do some type of 2-week promotion with affiliates and so forth. So you have a lot of transactions coming through at the same time. What you want to do is take your analytics to that next level, and you want to include tools that are called goals. And these are the tools that you can get basic for the free Google Analytics account. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to track people through the system. It will show you what page a person came in. And once you set up your goal, which obviously your goal would be to have them purchase or buy your product, you can actually see them walk through the process. You can see how many people go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3, step 4. You can see where people fall out, as well as you can see what do people review to help them make a decision. Now, this is really important when you have a big site, when you have a lot of pages, because you're trying to figure out what's the path to sales. If you have a smaller site, what's really important about this is you can see where there may be a leaky bucket, where people are falling out of the process, meaning you have them in a landing page, they're highly engaged. For some reason, they go to your shopping cart page and they're abandoning in your shopping cart and not making it through the process. That may mean that either the information on your landing page, there's not enough information. Maybe people aren't sure what the price point is. So maybe you've decided not to put the price point on that initial page. So that's why people are abandoning it in your shopping cart. So you may want to test moving that up in the process. Put the price on the landing page and see if that increases your conversions. Maybe your shopping cart is not easy to use. Maybe it doesn't work on mobile devices. I mean, there's so many different reasons that could affect the results, but often you won't know what's keeping you from getting the sales you want unless you start to put this tracking on there. Now, once again, for some of you, this is more advanced. For some of you, we want to just work on some of those earlier metrics. But others of you who do a lot of, especially launches, I really want to make sure you get these tools in place so you can understand where people are on your website, how many people are clicking on multiple pages, going multiple places, and what does it take for a person to drive sales, and where do you see people fall out in the process? Because that's going to help you with a website redesign. That's going to help you when you're doing free giveaways and trials to see what people are doing and how they're navigating your website. All right. Next metric to talk about is the cost of customer acquisition. And I know that feels like a mouthful, but the reason I put this in here is it's so important to get a good kind of grasp of what does it cost for you to get a customer. Because often in our business, we are chasing the customer. We're trying to court them and trying to get them to buy and sign up. And we kind of feel like throw anything at the process, do as much marketing as possible, all the advertising, because we got to get that customer. And in many cases, you do. You have to have a customer to stay in business. You have to have a customer to make money and to drive net income. But what you have to be careful of is how much does it cost you? Because if it costs you too much to acquire your customer, you're going to be upside down. You're going to spend more than what that customer is bringing in. Or what you may end up finding, and this is why it gets really important when you start to break it down to your marketing activity, is you may find that one type of tool costs you more money to acquire a customer than another tool. So what happens is marketing tool A versus marketing tool B, they're not equal. Even though they both generate sales, and it may feel like, well, all these things are generating sales, I need to do everything. But the reality is, especially when you're trying to prioritize, maybe find more time back in your day because you're doing so many things to drive sales and so many things to run your business, you may find that if you understand what it costs to acquire a customer overall, and then what it costs to acquire a customer per channel, you may find that the effort that you're putting into a channel is not yielding what you want. Now, it's a basic formula. You just take your total number of the cost and you divide that by, take the total number of customers you have and you divide that by the total number of costs. And that's how you're going to get your number. So if you spend 500 to acquire 50 customers, then your cost per acquisition is $10 per customer. So what I want you to do is do that for your marketing. Take channel by channel and understand what those numbers are. Prioritize your channels and then sit down and say, where should I be spending my time? Should I be spending my time to either A, reduce what it costs me to acquire that customer, or is that channel not yielding what I need to do? And maybe I need to put that channel maybe in kind of hibernation mode and work on the channels that are yielding, that are getting you more customers for the marketing dollars that you're spending. Now, for some of you, you're like, Stephanie, I'm not even tracking this number. So I understand what you mean on how to use it, but I haven't even been I don't even understand what that number is. Then that's your first step. You have to know, what does it cost for you to acquire a customer? And you have to understand what that total cost is. Start with your advertising. Ultimately, you're going to have to add in some of that overhead cost so you understand how that breaks down. But start with a very simple process, maybe with the advertising, so that you understand, well, if I spend X amount, do I even yield anything close to those numbers? Okay, perfect. And we got two more, so hang in there. Like I said, we're going to end a little bit early and be a little bit efficient tonight. But I did want to make sure I get through these last two because I think they're super important. We were just talking about cost, and I mentioned that you want to start with your advertising cost when you're trying to get a general idea of your cost per acquisition. But your cost per acquisition should include your overhead costs ultimately. And so I tell most people is, at a minimum, understand what your cost per acquisition is for your advertising, and then spin off another project or spend some time making sure you capture what is your overhead cost. Now, when I say overhead cost, it's just a fancy word for how much money do you basically spend to run your business. This is stuff like hosting fees. This is the cost to pay for your domain every year. This is your payroll software if you do payroll. This is the software for, I'm trying to think what other stuff I pay for. Oh, shopping carts, maybe secure website. You have to pay for those certificates. Any of those things that are kind of their costs, but their costs spread across your business. And that's why they're overhead costs, because the idea is that it really takes all of these costs to run the business. It's not just a direct to customer cost, as opposed to if you had, let's say, a subscription service. So to run the subscription service or a membership site, there's a cost to that, but you can allocate that specifically to the fulfillment of that product. It's just like if you do a bakery, you know exactly what the cost is to make a muffin, the cost it is to make a cake. But your overhead costs are going to be your electric. Your overhead costs are going to be your water. Your overhead costs are going to be your mixer, all that equipment that you have to actually have, because that's going to spread over not just the muffin, but the cakes, the everything that you make. Okay? The reason why this metric is super important is what happens for many of us is our overhead is eating up our income. So what happens is we have the customers, we're bringing in the money, but we're also spending it at the rate, either at the rate that we're bringing it in or a higher rate than that we're bringing it in. And what's happening is, because we want to have the best, we want to have the most efficient process, because we're really trying to just, do everything for your customers. Sometimes what you may be finding is you may be spending more than what you should in your business, and you got to get those budgets under control. And what I find for most people is they don't realize what that number is until they do their taxes. They sit down end of the year, and then a person's like, well, technically, when you take all your expenses out, you didn't make any money this year. And then people's jaws hit the floor and they're like, what?
And a lot of that's because there's just no monitoring of it. So what I want you to do differently is start to monitor this on a quarterly basis. I want you to, if you have a bookkeeper, then your bookkeeper needs to produce a report for you on a monthly basis. If you don't have a bookkeeper, then you have to do this work. Get a software system like Wave app or QuickBooks and set those up so you have a general idea of what your costs are. Now, I'm not trying to run you through an accounting exercise every quarter. I know for some of you, it's like, Steph, I can't do that. Numbers are just not my friends. So, what I want you to do instead, if that's a little intimidating for you, is I just want you to have visibility to it. And if that even means for some of you, it's like, Stephanie, I can't do the accounting, then what I want you to do is in your business, get a credit card that you use for all your business expenses and charge it only to that card. That every quarter, I want you to pull out that bank statement or the credit card statement and review it. Because that's going to get us halfway there. It's not perfect. Like I said, I'd rather you do an accounting report and have it all buttoned up. But at a minimum, if you're putting everything on one credit card and every month you review, every quarter you review it, you'll make sure that you have a good visibility to those costs, as well as what I've found over the years, especially being in business. I think this is year 7 for us. Gosh, it's been a while. What I found is looking at those reports, I was able to identify services or maybe software that I signed up for earlier in the year, but maybe I'm no longer using. But I've been so busy as a business owner that I didn't go back and cancel them. And I know that sounds strange because it's like, well, how did you not notice it or how could you miss that? But for many of you, if you're like me, your business expenses are big bulk numbers. So a 1099 or a 599 or even a 1599, those numbers can slip by you because if you've already been paying it for the last 3 or 4 months, there's no spike in your expenses. There's no spike in your credit card bill or anything that would really catch your eye. But if you're not reviewing it, you don't realize that there might be 3 or 4 of those that I could tick off of there. And $10, if you take off, that's $30. $30 over 12 months, that's some good money that you could put back in your pocket or money you could reallocate somewhere else. All right. The other thing is those numbers might even be bigger. There may be small things that you have like service charges. A lot of you guys, especially for websites, hosting cost, sometimes it means moving to a new platform. Sometimes it means for websites, you may need to buy websites for 3 years instead of 1 year so you can get a cheaper rate. There's all types of things you can do. Maybe the service that you're paying a monthly rate, but if you pay annually, you save 30% off the cost. And that's a huge way you can cut your costs quickly. It's a huge way that you can put money back in your back in your pocket without getting another customer. And it's a great way for you to make sure you're always shoring up your business to make sure that your resources, which one of your resources is the budget or the income, the money you have in your business, is being spent wisely. All right. And then the last metric that we're going to talk about tonight is revenue percentages. And I know it kind of sounds all dull the way I'm describing it there, but basically what I'm trying to say is of the money that you bring in, how much of that money is allocated to which type of product? Now, this is a metric you definitely want to know in your business. If you're a retailer or say you do skincare products, as an example, I want to know what's related to maybe facial products versus body products versus hair products. Let's say, for example, maybe you have an extended line. We want to get an idea of where is that allocation in that process. If you're a person that maybe does services, I want to know what you're doing as far as coaching, and maybe it's like 1 hour coaching. Consulting versus coaching. So if you have a program, which is like a 6-week program or a 12-month program, how much of your revenue comes from there, percentage wise? What percentage comes from consults? And then maybe what percentage comes from online tools you have? Maybe you have an ebook or something like that else you sell. Now, the reason we want to understand that breakdown is we want to identify a couple of things. Number one, do you have a customer base in one bucket and not the other bucket? So maybe it's 80% of your customers buying facial, but not buying your body products.
Are 80% of your customers signing up for 1 hour consults, but they're not buying your coaching program? What that tells me is there's an opportunity to upsell them into other products. So when you're looking at growing your business, when you're looking for saying, I need new customers, what you may need instead of new customers is you may just need to sell to your existing customers. You may just need to sell more product to existing customers and make sure they understand the value of those other products, how they complement what else you sell, and how they can kind of leap from what they're already buying and include it. And this may mean a bundled product. It may mean if you do a body product or a hair product, maybe you have a sampler pack that you can have them upgrade to so they can test it out and start buying those products. If you run a bakery or have, kind of more deli or made to order type of products, you may do the same thing. You may have a sampler pack, or you may offer people an opportunity if they normally buy your cakes or your cupcakes, to let them know that they can also buy a cookie pack from you, or they can buy or upgrade and buy items for holidays. You can do custom orders. So the idea is drive sales not externally, but drive sales internally. And the better or more visibility you have to where is your customer mix, that will give you an opportunity to figure out where is that upsell, where is that adjacent service or offering, or it may tell you where there's an additional opportunity. So say you maybe do beauty products and you do lotions and hair and body, and what you find is people love your scents. For people who buy vanilla or buy lemongrass, they buy the lemongrass of everything in the lotion. They buy the lemongrass in the hair products. They buy it in everything. So maybe you're going to come out with a perfume, and your perfume is going to carry that same scent. Maybe you need to come out with a product like a air freshener type of product. So you can actually use the same essential oils that you're using in the other product. You can use it in there. Same thing comes with, let's use the baking example. If you find that you have certain flavors that people like, then you may expand that flavor palette or flavor line into other things. So if your cupcakes are really famous and people love your carrot cake cupcakes, your red velvet cupcakes, they like your peanut butter cupcakes, then the question will be, is there an opportunity for you to sell cakes in those specialty flavors? Because what will happen is if people love it, one flavor, they're more likely to buy that same flavor in a different product. And what that may mean is by offering that new product, that's new revenue for you. So this is how you can use data in your business to help you not only sell more to existing customers, but use that data in your business to help you identify additional products or services that you should be offering in your business. Okay? So as we wrap up today, just want to give you a couple, I love giving you guys homework on what do you want to do next. Because as you take all this data, as you hear this webinar, like I said, I know you're busy. I know you got a lot going on. I know it's like, hey, Stephanie, I can't do 20 million things. I still have to run my business. I still have to take care of my customers. And I have a family and I have all this other stuff going on. I completely get it. So what I want you to do is, of tonight's webinar, I want you to pick 2 to 3 metrics and start monitoring them moving forward. The first question is that data even available? And what I mean by that is the systems in place, is Google Analytics in place, is QuickBooks in place, a lot of those things we talked about tonight. Are they in place so you can even track it? If they aren't, put them in place immediately. Put a plan in place for the next 30, 45 days to actually get that software or get those tools in place. If you do already have them in place, then you're ready to jump into monitor that. And what I want you to do really in the next day or so, maybe say next week, is make a commitment to yourself to monitor 2 or 3 of these metrics, like I said, on a weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual basis. Depending on your business, you're going to have to decide which one's the right one. But like I mentioned earlier, try to start in smaller segments, maybe weekly and monthly first, so you can get a good handle on the metrics. Are they coming in correctly? Is it information you can use? Are you measuring the right thing? And then you can decide if you need to look at it maybe less frequently. But often you want to have a little bit more focus on it in the beginning, because we want to make sure that we have the right metric. We're driving great decisions in our business. And ultimately, which was kind of the point of this webinar, is that you're using that data to help drive sales in your business. Okay. So with that, thank you for joining us tonight for this webinar Wednesday. As always, if you have questions after the webinar, please post them on the page. I will monitor the page and check it out. If you have questions, you can always email us as well. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope it's been exciting. I hope it's not been too overwhelming, but I do definitely hope that you see an opportunity to use this data and help you grow your business. So thanks again, and everyone have a wonderful night. Take care.